Hello and welcome back to Archeo Soup Towers. I am in need of your help. Can you help me to help an interesting little project that's unfolding in Wisconsin in the United States? A couple of days ago, I had a really lovely video call with a small after-school club that are engaging in a Lego-based project that has a product design aspect to it. It's a competition, and the theme is archaeology. In fact, the group reached out to various archaeologists, apparently, seeking some advice, some feedback, and some information, and I was the only one who responded. And that makes me a little bit sad, because I know archaeologists are often so generous with their time and knowledge, and I figured you might be able to help, if only in the comments below. I'm going to read the email that they sent over, just to explain a little bit more. Team number 44966, the Tiny Pterodactyls, is a team of 5th through 8th graders who participate in First Lego League. We are from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, United States. Our team has existed for 7 years and has used the name Tiny Pterodactyls for many years. Our robot team is an extracurricular at our Lutheran school, and this season's theme is archaeology. We design and build robots to play in a robot competition. We also must do real-world research on projects and solutions in the field of archaeology. Our competition consists of a 25-minute verbal judging session on both our archaeology problem/solution and our robot design process. Scoring high points in judging and in the robot game allows us to advance to higher level competitions and learn even more about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and maths. Also as well, you can put art in there as well. I've heard STEAM as well as STEM. I quite like STEAM. Adam Savage is a fan of STEAM. Getting expert advice from you and others that study archaeology would be a huge boost for our learning and earning judging points. Those that could share fun artifact stories for our ArchaeoBox solution would help us tremendously in selling our ideas to the judges. Now, the ArchaeoBox from our conversation is kind of like one of those home order subscription boxes that are great for learning and making, and they can be for all ages. Things like KiwiCo and others. There are various iterations of this where you get maybe a making project, you get a little booklet explaining the science or the thinking behind the making project, and you get sometimes an extra little thing, like maybe a link to a video or the next grand idea, like an overarching idea that connects all of these boxes together. And this was an aspect that they wanted to include in their solution. The problem that they identified was the problem of outreach, that archaeologists sometimes struggle to reach out to the public, not to be confused with paleontologists, for example, but also as well to maybe explain what archaeology is, how it's done, what the archaeological record says about the past, how deep the past is, so on and so forth. These are big ideas that I, for example, didn't know until I went to university. You know, these aren't normal ideas, in particular when we're talking about prehistory. So it's a great idea to try and solve that problem. It's a problem I've been working on my entire archaeological career in terms of outreach, talking to the public, and also helping archaeologists to talk to the public in a more effective way. And this little sort of presentation box is chef's kiss. And this is where I need your help, because I have some ideas, and the core idea is that whatever is in the box has to be more than just the fact of the thing. So, for example, my licorice all sorts mug here. It is a mug. Therefore, if this was found in the archaeological record, you can say that whoever owned it drank coffee or tea. Perhaps you can find some residue in the shards, in the sherds of the pot, and discern what was being drunk from it. Wink, wink. There's both coffee and tea drunk from this mug, so it may come up with not indeterminate results, but that's just the fact of the thing. The story of the thing that makes this more interesting than just being a mug, is that it is licorice all sorts. Why licorice all sorts? What does that say about the owner? What does it imply about the society that it comes from? An example that I shared in our video call was a toilet that I excavated in York when I worked at the Jorvik Viking Centre. I also did hard time working at the dig around the corner at the time at a place called Hungate, where they were unearthing cellars, the basements of various shops and houses from the Viking Age. And at the back of these houses, often you'd find a long, thin yard, and sometimes literally a booth, sort of a toilet, basically, in a wicker box, in a wicker booth. That in one instance we found the makings of a comb. Every stage of comb making represented. So maybe the workshop had been cleared out. Someone had come and gone, "Yeah, you're not paying your rent, get out of it," and just put everything into the toilet, possibly. But also, even more exciting, beyond the facts of the things, was a poo. There was a Viking poo, or a Norse poo, in that toilet, that when exposed to the air began to smell again. It began to become microbially active, but crucially it told us about that person's health, their diet. It was a snapshot into one day, one movement of one person's life that you rarely get, and you don't get from coins, for example, from shiny objects. Yeah, okay, a coin can be used to date a layer. It gives you an absolute date to a certain extent for what might be considered to be the same context as other stuff that the coin is found with. But beyond that fact of the thing, there's not much to say. And yet, so much of what archaeology is finding an artifact, finding a fact, as it were, something which has been wrought by human hands, and then eking out a story. It's this sort of, come here, look at this, that almost any archaeologist has in their back pocket. They know something cool about something that's been found, or that they found, or that a friend of theirs have found. And that's the story that I love to hear. And I think that's the story that we all want to share. And this sort of project is seeking to share those sorts of stories. You with me? So I don't just want to recommend my ideas, my facts, or things beyond facts, the facts and the stories beyond the fact of the thing. I want, and indeed they want, to hear as many as possible from other voices, other parts of the world, other priorities, other research interests. And that's one of the great things I've been able to do over the years in interviewing people for Meet the Archaeologist, was just learning and hearing about other people's research interests, and the myriad and niche ways in which archaeology is done, and all of those really cool stories that come with it. So yeah, this is my invitation to you. Comment below if it's just an artifact that has an interesting story that can be very easily understood. Just comment what that artifact is, and they can follow that up. If you have a story in particular that you want, that won't fit into a comment, that you want to share, reach out to me and I can definitely put you in touch with them, or even if it's just an email, a few paragraphs, I can forward that on to the team. But I'm intrigued by this. I love that they're trying to solve this problem, that they're tackling something which is a real issue for archaeology. After all, we don't do dinosaurs. We don't do dinosaurs! See? Are you happy? Do you get it now? Do you get it? Honestly. And hopefully together we can help them progress in this competition, or at the very least help them have wonderful stories to share. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Comment below. Let's gather together some interesting ideas and stories beyond the fact of the thing. Until next time, do take care. Bye bye.